All right, let's get our Facebook folks up in here. All right, there we go, guys. Welcome in. Welcome in. It is 6:32 a.m. where I'm at, 7:32 Mountain Time, and 9:32 where Scott is. But it's time, regardless of what time zone you're in, for an episode of Broncos for Breakfast. I am Nick Kendell, and joined by, as always, out there in Hotlanta, Scott Kennedy. Scott, how are you on this fine pre-Friday?
I am well. I always feel like this kind of feels like the weekend for me. You know, we finish a Thursday, and then it's Thomas Hall Legends of Mile High, which is pretty chill,
Yeah.
and then on to Friday afternoons. You mentioned time zone. It'd be interesting to count the time zones we have represented, and I bet we've got 10. I bet we easily have 10 time zones represented in Broncos for Breakfast, without a doubt. Because I know one more we've got for sure is Ethan coming in. The DWI guy is over in London, so he's -5 Eastern time. So let's see, that puts it about 2:30, I think, 2:30 Pacific. Saying, he says, "Good afternoon, gents, as always." And he says, on a positive note, coming in hot pink with 50 pounds of super chat, the NFL Finance Committee unanimously voted to approve the sale of the Broncos to the Walton Group. The vote moves forward on August 9th. Should be a formality at that point.
Yep.
You do not drop what did we say it was, almost $5 billion, $4 billion and change, without already having all of the requisite approvals. You don't risk that. You don't do that stuff. So they've already taken the straw poll test. It's not close. Now it's just a formality. Shouldn't be a problem, but it'll be nice when it's over and official, and you can do some of the things that you're not allowed to do. Meet the press, talking about things, that you can't officially do until you are the owner. And that'll be good. That'll be good for the Broncos. And then it's all football, all moving forward. So thank you, Ethan. Love you, dude.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ethan. Good afternoon to you. Hopefully things are well there across the pond. He says before that, hot dog, good afternoon, Jensen Broncos country. So good to see you, Ethan. Always appreciate you. And looking forward to the season, man. And I don't know if you just saw it, but Bob Morris just dropped a piece on Mile High Huddle about the Denver Broncos underrated superstar from Pro Football Focus. The one, the only Josie Jewell is the player listed there. So I was thinking of you, Ethan. Maybe you should check that out. I don't think Josie's a superstar, but he's fine. EJ coming in saying, good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Training camp was fire yesterday. Yeah, I heard it was hot. 91 degrees. Luke was telling me about some guy having a heat exhaustion thing going. No, I'm just, hopefully that guy's okay.
That was Luke. No, I'm just
That was Luke. Oh, God. No, it was good. Obviously, I've said it on here a million times. This is just me being, reality check guy. But in these training camps, when you're not going up against other teams, it's zero sum. If one guy on one side is winning, that means one guy on the other side on your team is losing. So you don't really know what it looks like. I think it was it was 2015 with the Broncos, and they're like, oh my gosh, the offense is looking really bad. We're like actually pretty concerned coming off of what Peyton Manning was in 2013 and 2014. Granted, Peyton did take a big step back, but the Broncos defense was legitimately historical top 5 all time. So that's one of those things you just don't know until you play enough other teams to really see where you fall in the pecking order. But regardless, it was fire because real football is back.
Yeah, and there's certain things you can tell, especially when you're looking for the injuries. We'll get into several of those that are both positive, and concerning today. How are players moving that are coming off of injuries? Who's not out there because of injuries? Those are the real things. There was a comment. You asked me about watching, OTAs. I'm like, no, I didn't watch more than, I don't consider watching a 2-minute highlight reel of OTAs watching OTAs. Basically, the only way to watch them is to be there. And even if they were across the street, I don't know that I'd go watch, because you just don't learn anything. There's other things I can do with my time that are more valuable. And someone made a crack. It was like, he's supposed to cover the Broncos, doesn't care about the Broncos at all. I'm like, no, I don't care about OTAs at all. There isn't anything I'm going to learn watching. Oh, Russ made a nice throw. Yeah, Russ has made a few nice throws. I know that. But you learn a lot of the stuff early on is the news bites coming out. It's basically the injuries and coming out. And you can get an idea, but again, is the edge winning because the right tackle is bad, or because he's that good and the right tackle is good? Some of the things you don't quite know yet. But I know there's a lot of concern in here about the right tackle position. And frankly, Nick, that's a position we've been harping on this show for, going on 18 months that it's a concern. And it seems to be as much of a concern as ever right now.
Yep. I guess the one thing Broncos country can take solace in is that they're not alone in their right tackle struggles. It's an issue mostly across the league, but especially in the AFC West. Broncos, let's say they played Calvin Anderson this season, who's not played many reps at right tackle and has looked better at left tackle than right in his very limited sample size. He, even though despite, limited sample size and not being amazing there, might not be the worst right tackle in the division, because you're talking about Andrew Wiley there for the Chiefs, who's been horrible. Trey Pipkins there for the Chargers, complete unknown. Don't even remember who's starting there for the Raiders. Maybe it's Alex Leatherwood, who got moved to guard last season after they struggled. So at least the Broncos are not alone. It's definitely a concern. If they can just get competency there, that'd be great. But as Cleese comes in here, says, the right tackle situation is bad if you're signing Cam Fleming. Yeah, Cam Fleming. I'm a little bit surprised they brought in Cam Fleming instead of Bobby Massey. I'm not sure about that, because Cam Fleming is, I think, a better run blocker. But Bobby Massey looked like a far more stable pass protector last season, and I'm more concerned about keeping Russell Wilson healthy first and foremost. I'd rather have an elite run blocking unit with this team, personally, with how Russell Wilson plays. But I think it's more important to not have a terrible pass protecting unit than it is anything else.
You mentioned Bobby Massey. I just looked him up. I'm like, all right, how old is Bobby Massey? Because if I covered him in high school, thereabouts, it must mean he's getting old, because I'm real old. Yeah. He's 33. Bobby Massey might not want to come into training camp. He might want to, sit out just a little bit. I don't necessarily want to go through the dog days. When you're ready to start putting on pads and popping people, let me know. So we don't know that they didn't call Bobby Massey. And it's a possibility, but again, either his phone isn't ringing off the hook anyway, which would be a little surprising. He's a serviceable right tackle, or maybe there's a chance he doesn't want to play in July, which is also, like I said, a strong possibility.
Yep, definitely is a possibility. We'll see. And this Cam Fleming signing almost is out of necessity for bodies. Billy Turner going on PUP. Yeah. Yep. Tom Compton.
You lost two right tackles. You've got your two that you thought you were competing, Tom Compton and Billy Turner on PUP, which doesn't mean anything because you can be activated at any given moment. That's going to be my new pet peeve. I might get off the word salad linebacker changing positions that we've been playing for 100 years and start talking about the fake PUP list in July. But Billy Turner, Tom Compton, okay, they want to have 3 right tackles actively in camp that they can, reading through and watching the press conferences, and what coaches we know is they've got 3 units. They want 15 offensive linemen in camp, 3 right tackles. How many do they have now? I mean, they lost 2, so they had to bring in somebody. And again, I'm not saying I know this for a fact, obviously, but maybe Bobby Mack says, I don't want to come in and just be a camp body. Let me know when you want me to come play, and I'll come play.
And also, just talking about a guy being a camp body, maybe Cam Fleming's a little cheaper in that type of contract. So you're just like, okay, we're going to get Tom Compton back at some point. It does sound like they knew this was happening. It's progressing fine. The one that's kind of a concern, it sounds like, is Billy Turner's knee. So we'll find out more about that going forward, no doubt. And another reason, I feel like this guy is quickly becoming my player to your Steven Means last year, where it's like I keep bringing him up, but like, this guy getting a lot of snaps is very concerning to me. I know it's in OTAs and et cetera, training camp, but Ben Braden getting a lot of right tackle snaps when he's played 9 snaps total in his career to date, and we're entering year 5 or 6, and he came in as a guard/center. I mean, Bradley Chubb's dominating him. Yeah. Okay.
Better be.
Yeah. Cool. That's great. Stay healthy, I guess, but that doesn't really do much for me, especially when I'm not seeing the reps. But Kevin Gray coming in saying morning Broncos country. So Saturday's the first day in pads. So here come the pads. Lodi. Here come
Lottie. I would put that. See, that's why you do it with an AW. Somehow Washington Huskies have taken the Georgia Southern drawl of dogs and think that they can take that on, which makes 0 sense. So it's DAWG is dogs. Yeah. And it's Lottie, LAW.
That makes more sense.
So let me let my Southern redneck fill in just a little bit, so I can help you out with that one, Nick.
Let me get my latte here to drink real quick. Speaking of, I'm 1 mile now from Husky Stadium. I drive by it every morning. I'm gonna have to get tickets to one of the games this year. Maybe I think the Buffs play there this year. It's not a far walk from me. We also have Ethan coming in again. Man, Ethan, thank you so much. Saying sounds like Luke was really impressed with Jonas Griffith yesterday. Thank God. Okay, yeah. I mean, if you've been listening on here,
we started it. We started it. I mean, I let other people take way too much credit professionally in my career to my own detriment, because I always said I need an agent. I don't want to tell you how awesome I am. I want him to tell you how awesome I am. I need an agent. I honestly don't remember the games, but it left an impression, and that's all that matters. I just remember, I'm like, that dude is a badass.
Yeah.
It didn't take long to see it. He's 6'4", he's 250 plus pounds. He runs like the wind, and he hits like a Mack truck.
Yep.
Okay, what else am I looking for? Okay, he can get some experience. We can teach him the spot. I can line him up next to a more experienced player, and he can learn. He should only get better. I was impressed with him early and often when he hit the field last year, much more so than Kenny Young or whoever they ran through the rotation last year. And it seems that, we weren't alone, Nick.
Yeah, and I don't have like 10,000 sources in Dove Valley, but I do have some. And even before Jonas Griffith was taking the field, there was hey, watch for this kid. Very impressed very early. And that was also one of the big things that I was told, what's going on with Barry Brown? And he was good there last year. Don't worry. We got Jonas Griffith in the wings. We're really excited about him. So good to hear he's doing well. And thank you again, Ethan. Double dipping. We appreciate you. Jeremy in the house saying, good morning, everyone. I like the energy, Ethan. Absolutely. Bama X is in the house, too. Good morning, Broncos country. And we got Travis Weber coming in out there in Utah. Travis, I haven't really heard your take on what's going on with the Pac-12. Is it going to be the Big 12, Pac-12 merger here? I mean, Utah has built themselves a pretty darn good program out there over the last few seasons, and curious to see what happens. I love that coach of theirs. Travis coming in saying, good morning, Nick, Scott, and Broncos country. Should we be concerned that we are signing players who started out injured? I mean, yes and no. The Broncos, the players that they've signed out injured, we kept looking at the deals being like, oh, that's actually not that bad. Okay, but now we're learning why. Like, why? Oh man, Randy Gregory's deal is really only a 2-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of flexibility there. That's not the worst deal in the world, considering.
And a low cap hit the first year.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, screaming that stuff there. So it is a little bit concerning, especially because you go into it with like these expectations, like, oh man, we got him first deal. That's great. And then it's like later, it's like, okay, well now it makes a little bit more sense. We have more information there, but definitely a concern. No doubt. And again, like with Billy Turner and Tom Compton, you're paying them almost vet min for each of those players. So it's not shocking. I guess the biggest concern is that, you have a big question mark at the right tackle position. But a lot of people, screaming for La'el Collins. He has some pretty serious injury concerns as well. And the Bengals paid him pretty decent guaranteed money. So Broncos went a little bit safer, a little bit more of a shotgun approach at that position. Hopefully it works out. Probably going to be a question all season and a hole again next season, but no such thing as a perfect roster. And as long as you have the quarterback, you're going to have a chance, and you're going to hopefully be able to schematically and player-wise around them overcome some of those deficiencies.
And a point, Nick, we want to re-emphasize is if you've got one hole's a big word, but one subpar offensive lineman, you can typically cover. So if your right tackle is not great, let's say, that's okay. As long as your right guard is playing at a good level, your center is playing at a good level. And then I can chip, I can use a tight end. I can bring, I can drop Andrew back into the backfield, run an H-back. I can do all kinds of things to help scheme around my deficiencies at right tackle. So that doesn't concern me that much. Again, when you look at the rest of the roster and it's so strong, you go, okay, where are the problems? They're fairly obvious, but it shouldn't prevent you from becoming a championship caliber type of team. Yep. When you run into trouble with that is if your left tackle and your left side can't handle 1v1, you got to come into a lot of double tight sets and you're running into stacked boxes. But even with having a 2 wide receiver set and a max protect with Russell Wilson out there, you should still be able to throw the ball.
Yeah.
So there's ways to scheme around deficiencies at right tackle as long as you don't also have deficiencies in other parts of the line. And frankly, last year, Nick, there were some problems in other parts of the line too, which is what which magnifies the problem.
Yep, absolutely. JDA001, good morning, Broncos fan from Weber State University, Ogden, Utah. EJ coming in saying Broncos have neglected to draft a tackle in the last 5 years of the draft. That's what happens when you don't invest in tackles in the draft. We sign bums off the street that are mediocre. I'd be curious to look at the tackles in the last 5 drafts outside of the first, let's say, 50 picks that actually go on and become something. I think the Broncos have a pretty strong belief that if you're not taking one pretty early, that the bum off the street that's the 1-year deal is just as likely to make an impact as, that 3rd round pick on at the tackle position. And the good ones, the ones that have that rare body, which is the athleticism, the length, the movement skills, the strength, the technique, those guys are picked up pretty quickly. It's a scarcity position, and it's one that has a very specific set of skills. As Scott has said on here before, there's 10,000 kids on the street available that are 6'2", 32-inch arms, 300 pounds that you can plug in and play the interior offensive line. 6'5" ballerinas with 34+ inch arm length. I mean, those guys, there's less than 64 in the league, honest to God, and that's how many spots there are. So it's hard to find that guy. Go ahead, Scott.
Well, which is why you don't let Spencer Brown fall to 100.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't. I mean, you can get him, but everybody else has to make a mistake. And that was a mistake. Spencer Brown was a beast. He was a physical freak, and he was mauling people at the Senior Bowl, and he fell to close to 100. That was insane to me. And so you can get them out there for sure. You can. Who's our guy that Abraham Lucas?
Mm-hmm.
Is it Abram? I've already forgotten their names. I'm already flushing. There's not enough room in the hard drive anymore. My short term is shot. But I thought he was a guy, and the Broncos passed on him a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
So they're out there, but you can get them 3rd round, especially at right tackle. Typically we talk about the movement of players all the time. If you're a tackle, if you're really good, you'll play left tackle. If you're not good enough to play left tackle, we'll try your right tackle. If you're not quite good enough for right tackle, we're going to put you at guard. If you can't play guard, you're not playing football. Yeah. That's just kind of the progression of how it works. So you can typically find guys in the later rounds down a little bit, mid to later rounds for a right tackle position. But you got to take a swing, right? You got to buy that lottery ticket, don't you?
At some point, I think the Broncos do have pretty strict athletic parameters and whatnot for the tackle position and length parameters for across the offensive line. It'd be interesting. We're only 2 drafts with George Payton, but both interior offensive linemen they've drafted so far had vines, 34-inch plus arm length. And I think that's something I've heard is big for the Broncos, even on the interior for their scouting process. Mark Schrader coming in with the stars and the support and also saying, good morning, all. Good morning to you, Mark. Hopefully you're doing well. We appreciate you. I saw ZZZ in here saying I appreciate y'all. We appreciate you.
We appreciate you. Z. We appreciate you, Triple Z.
Falling asleep.
There's a town near here in the South. I think South Carolina or somewhere. Might be going up towards towards Duke, up towards Raleigh, going up from Atlanta. It's like Zizix. It's ZZZYX is
no way
the town name.
Just some kid hit the keyboard. Cat walked across the screen. It feels like Seattle and Colorado, says Lawrence Rivera. Good to see you, Lawrence.
I'm gonna hit this comment from Lawrence real quick. It's rather lengthy, but it just starts up. I'm worried that Russ wants to throw more, wants to throw too much to take away from the game. Russ wants to win. That's the big one. He's 33 years old. He wants to win. It doesn't have to be all about him. I think you will see you're going to have some upset skill players because there's just not enough footballs to go around. Someone's going to end up being upset. That's just human nature. So that's going to happen. Wait for it. I'm not getting enough touches, and I think they'll all be professional about it for a year, but you might see somebody say, okay, I want to move on after a year. But I expect the ball to be spread around well. Russ wants to win, plain and simple. Does he want to be one of the key reasons why? That's guaranteed. This team hasn't made the playoffs in 5 or 6 years. It is guaranteed if they win a Super Bowl, go to the Super Bowl, have a big year, Russ will get the credit and Nathaniel Hackett will get the credit for turning this team around. They are the two big differences. Doesn't matter how. You could still go a 55-45 run split, which won't happen anymore. Russ will still get the credit for it, and even might be mentioned as far as being an MVP for his leadership and his intangibles. Don't worry about it, Lawrence. You're not going to unbalance this offense. Pookie Williams and Melvin Gordon they're going to be a big part of this offense.
And if it does become an issue, tune in here. We'll talk about it. We'll listen and we'll find out. Moran, why do the Broncos continue to believe they can play without a right tackle? Fingers crossed it's not the worst this year, but we'll see. Greg Smith, good morning, Broncos for breakfast. Good to see you. Andrew Lampy with the Stars saying, morning all. Is Jamar Johnson on the bubble? I had high hopes. Does seem like Jamar Johnson is very much on the bubble. And the big reason is if you're not one of the top 3 safeties, you better damn well be able to play special teams. And it sounds like he is pretty far behind on the special teams pecking order. Never really was a incredible athlete for the safety position, and falling behind the likes of PJ Locke and Reed as well, who is a special teams ace there for the Broncos on the back end of the safety depth chart.
Yeah, we'll see. Again, Caden Stearns, you mentioned the 3 that are there in the rotation. Should see plenty of playing time after that. What he has going for him is he's cheap, but he again, you have to be able to contribute. Young and cheap can be a good way to go. And Albert coming in making reference says, did you forget to defragment your hard drive, Scott? It's too late for that, man. This one's broken. I worked in IT in a previous life a long time ago. And once you're in IT, you're always in IT. And I always helped explain computers to people by like the human brain. Your processor is your intelligence. How quickly can you figure things out and do them? Your RAM is your ability to multitask. Can I do a bunch of things at once? And your hard drive is your long-term storage. Mine's full. You get 50. It's full. I can't remember people I worked with a year ago, but I can tell you all 6 of my elementary school teachers. Not sure what my son's phone number is, but if you need some 80s hairband reference song lyrics sung in tune, I'm your guy. It's like you wish you could just flush and start over, but too late for that. So anyway,
pick and choose.
The defragmented hard drive. Maybe I should have done that a long time ago.
And I want to run through some hellos here. Chris Jenkins, morning, fellas. Broncos family. Glad to finally talk preseason football. Benjamin Flores in the house. Good morning, all. Good to see you. I also saw that Miguel's in the house. Good morning, fellas. Good to see you, Miguel. Albert Knoppers, of course. Hello to you, buddy. Ryan Kangi. Good morning, Broncos for breakfast. I realize I may be too soon, but could right tackle become a priority in the 2023 draft? The issue is the Broncos don't pick until the 3rd round, and it could be late in the 3rd round. So yes, it's a priority, but when you're picking that late, and the Broncos are going to have to probably pay Russell Wilson, one of Draymond Jones / Bradley Chubb. I mean, you have question marks there. You really can't be that narrowed in your focus that late in the draft, especially this early. I think it was Dane Brugler just released an article saying that this year's tackle class looks uninspiring at this point. I mean, we still have a full year of football to evaluate and see who emerges, but I think it is a priority, but you need to have a very wide scope at this point.
And typically you're not drafting someone for right. If you go high, you're not drafting someone for right tackle. You're drafting a tackle. You're drafting an offensive tackle. The hope is always left tackle. Again, you want to get it. So he played left tackle in college. If you can play left tackle in college, pretty good chance you can play right tackle. He just needs the reps. Now, there are a few exceptions. The great Bob Whitfield, who I run into in Atlanta every so often, was an exception because he had one eye. He had a birth that only had one eye. He was only going to play on one side of the line. But for the most part, you're just, could it become a priority to get a tackle? Yes, it should be. You should bring in somebody that you're willing, a toolsy guy you're willing to take a chance on, that has some, what was his name? Wessler, the tall guy. I think he ended up at Dallas. He's 6'7", lean, 310 pounds, moves really well.
The North Dakota
Sneak
cat.
him in the 3rd or 4th round. You don't want him necessarily starting right away, but maybe you got him for 2024, a year later.
Yeah, and we got Ethan coming in here. Is this the transition, Scott? Is this a hint? Or are we okay? Well, guys, while I pull up the Manscaped read because I closed it so I don't get distracted, make sure that as you can see, actually, I just got a haircut yesterday, not by Manscaped, but had a good time with it, and grooming up top. You also want to groom down below. Taking control of your male grooming is important. If you're experiencing overgrown yard, Manscaped products are so good. You're going to be showing pride in your new bush-free property. It's a fact that you have the best kept area on the cul-de-sac. Save big and be the most hygienic version of yourself by using our discount code MHH for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Whether you're looking to go bald like an eagle or just in need for a safe trim, Manscaped is dedicated to helping you level up your full body grooming game. The grooming package I highly recommend is the Performance Package 4.0. Inside the package is the Lawnmower 4.0. This electric trimmer is a bush's worst nightmare. The trimmer is designed to reduce grooming accidents and to shave hair on loose skin thanks to the ceramic blade and the advanced skin-safe technology. And I really love the crop mop. Have a very busy summer coming up here still. August. Pacific Northwest summer doesn't really start until mid-July, and August is going to be crazy with a lot of outdoor hiking, backpacking, fishing adventures. And I'm going to bring the crop mop with me because nothing is worse than hiking, getting all dirty, and then going into your tent clothes and everything nasty. So crop mop's going to help me keep clean in the downstairs area. And guys, make sure you get 20% off and free shipping with our code MHH at manscaped.com. Again, that's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com if you use our code MHH. It's time for you to level up down south below the border with the ultimate bushwhacking tools from Manscaped.
Yep. Boom. So help support the sponsors that help support the show. So yes. Manscaped.com, code MHH. And all the double entendres aside, I like the stuff just for, hey, what is that coming out of my ear? Why is there a hair longer than anything on my head sticking out of my ear? Let's, take care of that stuff. So all kinds of things to go take care of. And Ethan says, we're on the 4.0s. I'm on the original model. Yeah. And then Bronco Sunrise just got in. Thank you very much for the super chat. Bronco Sunrise coming in orange, Bronco orange. He says, just got in, go Broncos. It's not all he says, but if you're listening later and you want to know what he says, come to the show at where are we? With the 27-minute mark.
Absolutely. Nads is a good word. I'll just leave that one in there. Okay, we got him coming in here, gonna make Scott spit out his coffee. Michael Ronquillo, good morning, Nick and Scott on Broncos for breakfast. Let's ride. I also saw that Rusty Shackelford, not Rusty Shackelford, is in here. Excuse me. I apologize for that. Did you ever watch King of the Hill? Or you did not?
No, you asked me that again. Okay. So speaking of memory problems, no, I didn't watch King of the Hill. But Rusty, not Rusty, I want to call you Rusty, not Rusty Shackelford, went to camp yesterday and got to take his daughter, which was very cool. Tell awesome. In the chat that he got some very keen autographs. So great family experience. You want to talk about having a Bronco fan for life now. There you go. Done. You got one. Yep. So get them indoctrinated early. I used to start by, I always said my kids could choose any team they wanted to. They were born in Los Angeles. But if you want ice cream in the house, you're going to have to say, go Braves. So, or we're watching Chelsea. Scott, can we go to a movie? Or Dad, can we go to a movie after this? I'm like, yeah, if Chelsea wins, we can go Chelsea. All of a sudden I had very invested fans. So yeah, you've got not Rusty Shackelford. You've got fans for life. Great family experience. I hope it was just awesome for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds a little Pavlovian there to get your kids on that Braves bandwagon there. Like, ooh, Braves ice cream. Braves ice. That's I'm going to have to store that one away. Dom coming in here. Good morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Good to see you. I don't know if we said hello to Benjamin Flores yet, but I see you, Benjamin. Good to see you in here. Tyler Rogers also. Good morning, guys. Hopefully I didn't skip anybody in here coming in. I always want to say hello to everybody. Oh, Diamond Rattler, of course, too. Boom. Let's ride. Good to see you. Fallen Sloth, too. Good morning, Broncos country. Hope everyone's day is starting as great as mine. Well, Fallen Sloth, share. The floor is yours. What's so good about your morning right now? It's maybe it's not as hot where you are. It's miserable in the Pacific Northwest right now. It's going to be 5 days in a row of 90+ degrees. And I decided that I live in an oven. It is hot here. So in my house, went to bed last night. The main floor was 86 degrees, which is not very enjoyable when you're laying in just sitting and you're sweating. I'm not really a big fan.
I live in a house that was built in the 80s. And we moved here. Said we've replaced the air conditioners and we do not skimp on air conditioners. I might skimp on food. I might skip on, stuff like that. But no, like I said, I'm not joking when I said I got $30,000 worth of air conditioners. Come on down. I've got more air conditioner than car. So it's hot here, but we're prepared for it.
Yeah, Absolutely. Good to see you, Michael Curran. Comment coming in here from Travis Weber on Facebook saying it's been a pass happy league for the past few seasons, maybe even longer than that. Dating Dan Marino was kind of the first there for that pass happy league, but definitely we've seen exponential improvement in the pass game. It's why when people compare, John Elway's stats to a quarterback's stats today, it's like it doesn't make any sense at all. Like if you put Andy Dalton's rookie year numbers back in 1985, he's going to look like the best quarterback in NFL history. It's just the game has changed a lot. So I think that's really silly. A better way, if you want to look against eras, is to see where they rank against their peers. So Andy Dalton, ranking bottom 10 versus Elway top 10 amongst his peers. Better way to talk about that. But I digress. Travis saying it's a pass happy league for the past few seasons. But I will say that, but still need those running back studs when it comes time to make calls for the run game. And this is something I've said on here before, but we got a good audience in here today. A lot of people coming in and saying hello. It does seem like when I watch and evaluate, and I've heard other people, smarter people than myself, who talk X's and O's, Deontay Lee being one of them over on The Athletic. He was just ranked like the 6th best football analyst in America or something. Good for him. He's an up and coming star if you haven't checked him out. But talking about how Russell Wilson, because he doesn't really have in his pocket as much the short, quick pass game, especially over the middle of the field, like you see with Peyton Manning, like you saw with Drew Brees, like you saw with Tom Brady right now. Although Tom Brady's been bombs away somewhat since going to Tampa, it helps to have weapons, I guess. But because Russell Wilson doesn't really work that area of the field as much, you need a strong run game, because it's all about, especially if you're trying to get those bombs away, Russell Wilson balls. The league defenses right now, as to Travis's point here about a pass happy league, have gone really hard, leaning hard into the 2 high safety shells, even on first and second down. It used to be that's a third down kind of look there, where you want to have more guys in the box with a cover 1 or a cover 3 look on first and second down. Vic Fangio, Brandon Staley, a lot of these guys are like, F no, why would we do that? Run the ball. I dare you. The EPA is not even close to passing it. The explosive play opportunity is not even close to passing it. So what does that mean for Russell Wilson, since he's not going to be able to, as much, in theory, take advantage of the spaces that are going to be in the middle, short areas of field when you're playing more guys deep? It means that you have to be able to run the ball efficiently. You have to be able to make teams punch them in the mouth and, 5 yards, 6 yards of carry. So the other team then has to be like, wait a second, we're getting gashed right now. We can't sit here in cover 6. We can't sit here in cover 2 or match quarters or whatever you want to call it. We need to shift and pivot down to a cover 3 or a cover 1. And that's when you have the space over the top. That's when you can hit those hash marks or outside the hash mark throws. So, yes, the running game specifically for Russell Wilson is going to be very big this season, and for the Broncos also. And it's not just, the running game, it's the running backs. With Nathaniel Hackett, he used those running backs a lot in the pass game. And I think that's going to be similar for the Broncos. And that's an area where you can work the short pass game, but it doesn't necessarily have to be over the middle of the field. There's going to be space outside the hash marks for the quick pass game, speed outs, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, I agree with you, Travis.
Yeah, and the Twitter version of this, real quick, of what Nick said to help sum up and make sure I'm understanding and we're agreeing on this, is if he's not going to throw to the middle of the field, then I don't need to cover the middle of the field. Okay, so I can put some guys to the outside. Wait, now I've only got the front 4 covering the middle of the field for the run game. Okay, so if I can run the ball up the middle for 6 yards, I better cover the middle of the field again. So your short passing game, middle of the field, becomes your running game. Is how you balance that out. So again, it's going to be a balanced offense. I have no doubt on that. And EJ coming in, he asked a question: do you think Pookie and MG can reach 1,000 yards this year? My initial reaction on that is no. Do I think they can combine for 2,000 yards this year? Yes. Yeah. I think it's more likely to be like a 1250, 750. I think that Javonte Williams will get more carries. We've said before, I think they were 800 apiece last year, almost, they each got 203 carries. They were both knocking on the door right about 800 yards. Nick, I've said I think I expect 20% more plays this year based on the tempo of the game. So 20% on 800 is 960. So you're close. You're close to almost 2,000 combined yards if nothing else were to change. However, I think the rotation is going to skew more heavily towards Javonte Williams this year. Even a 55-45 ends up being 1,100, 900, 1,150, 850. So, I think they can combine for 2,000 yards, EJ. I just think it will be it's more likely to be a 1250, 750, 1300, 700 type of split.
Yeah. I will add a little caveat on this one as well. And sorry to go down such a scheme pathway there, Scott, but it's the chess game here. And it's really important to understand with what makes Russell Wilson tick and how this is all going to work. Because you need to win that chess game to get those explosive pass plays. But talking about 1,000 yards each for the running back, that comment here real quick. Where was it at? Okay, he says rushing yards. No on the rushing yards, but all-purpose yards? Absolutely. Absolutely. These running backs, especially because you have target question marks with the likes of the tight end position. A lot of those targets might be shifted to the likes, especially Melvin Gordon, who is an underrated pass catcher out of the backfield. And I mean, last year, A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones for the Packers, I think, were the number 2 and number 3 target leaders for the Packers last year. Granted, it was Devontae Adams and then question mark that after that for the Packers. So it'll be a little different here, of course. But I think 1,000 yards each, all-purpose yards, would be shocking if they didn't get it, assuming no injuries.
All right. I don't know the league like you do. So was this a joke about Alan Lazard about this went viral, had 1 million views yesterday when asked about the difference in camp. And Aaron Rodgers says it shouldn't be that hard going from one Hall of Famer to another. When Devontae Adams is to Alan Lazard, is Alan Lazard like not a player? I don't even know, honestly. I don't play fantasy.
He's a player. I know him because he went to Iowa State and was really good at Iowa State from Iowa, high school recruit. But it's a kind of a clapback at Devontae Adams because he said that about the change from going to Aaron Rodgers to Derek Carr. And he's like, oh, I don't think it's going to be that different going from one Hall of Famer to another. Okay. So obviously, I mean, Derek Carr is good and he's starting to get some of his flowers, which, begrudgingly I accept because he is a good quarterback. But obviously, Aaron Rodgers, even if they're both good, Aaron Rodgers out of the picture here.
Yeah. Okay.
Derek
Carr,
and
I was like, I don't think that was a knock on his own receiver. Maybe I'm underestimating how good Lazard is. I don't know much about him. Like I said, I don't play fantasy. I don't watch the Packers. Beyond the highlight guys like Devontae Adams. Yeah. So I was wondering where that came from. Now that we were speaking of Green Bay just a little bit. Another kind of fun over-under coming in orange, the Broncos orange, coming from Ethan. I think this is a hat trick today, Ethan. Maybe even the golden sombrero with 4 going, keeping the lights on for sure. My forehead is nice and shiny with the lights, so thank you. The over-under on Pat Surtain picks this year set at 7. Now, is that you're setting at 7, or is that like a Vegas thing? And over-under on how many go to the house set at 2. 7's a lot of interceptions.
I was going to say, that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's hard. What was the interceptions leader last year? And it was Diggs because they threw at him 50 times a game.
Yeah, because he gave up more yards and receptions than anyone else in the league.
Defensive leaders, interceptions was 11, 8, 6. Those were the 3, and it was 5. So there were only 3 players who had more than 5 last year. So 7's a lot.
And this doesn't bake in injury that could happen. Knock on wood, but like when you see these Vegas individual player numbers, a lot of times they are hedging a bit with the injury there. Because if you miss, 3 games, poof, your numbers are gone. But definitely.
And what's strange is I think you're more likely to get 2 house calls than 7 total interceptions.
Totally.
I just think you're going to throw away from him more often. We've talked about that going back into our philosophical discussion of which is the more valuable player to have, the corner or the edge playing at a top 10 level. I can throw the ball 5 other places. Yep. I can run the ball. I can do all kinds of things to help negate a corner. It's really, really hard to take an edge out of the game. Yep. I can run away from him, but then I'm only using one side of the field. So, for me, if Surtain starts off hot, and we kind of expect that, and they decide to test him, let's see about this rookie. The second-year guy, this young guy that's getting all the hype. Well, yeah, he's pretty good, but I think you can throw away from him a little bit. That 7's a lot. That again, you can go an entire game and not hear a corner's name, and that meant he was fantastic. So you got to get picked on a little bit to get those interceptions.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. no doubt about that. We got Jasmine coming in here saying, "Morning, everyone." If I remember, Jasmine's husband's a Cowboy fan, so maybe don't tell him the digs that we're getting in here. I could be wrong though, but I remember some conversation about he's sleeping on the couch. So good to see you, Jasmine. And just to our point earlier, Scott, came across my Twitter feed here. Just again, I'm sorry, I'm a dog with a bone here, kind of like you are sometimes with the linebacker terminology. This single high versus two high discussion here. Doug Farrer, who covers the NFL, written multiple books, NFL editor, USA Today.
Former Scout alum, used to work with Doug, Seattle guy, I believe.
Yep, he is. He's pretty bummed about the Drew Lock saga here. But anyway, talking about the single high versus split safeties. Here is the touchdown to interception ratio last season, two deep versus single high. So two deep, 152 touchdowns to 195 interceptions. Single high, 334 touchdowns to 222 interceptions. So just a massive discrepancy here in today's NFL in the passing efficiency for the single high versus the two deep. And for Russell Wilson to get those opposing teams into more single high looks, Broncos run game has to be a threat. The other team has to respect it.
And going back to Rusty here, this is kind of a common theme we hear. And I feel like this is kind of just bubble thought here. It says, pray for Russ's health because the backup QBs didn't look great, especially Rippon. I can say that about every team in the NFL. Yeah. There isn't a team that you're thinking that is a contender right now that remains a contender if you take their quarterback out of the equation and put in a backup. Not a one. Probably not even a playoff team. So, that's not alone. You've got to stay healthy at the quarterback position across the board. That is a universal truth of the NFL. There's just too much invested in your starting quarterback to be able to carry two that can play.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. Going to be important. And Joel coming in here talking about the running backs in the pass game, saying Javonte Williams has good hands. Just questions about blocking, in my opinion. Needs to be consistent there and cement a position as an all-down back so the other team doesn't stack the box on him. I'm going to slightly disagree here, Joel. Not that Javonte doesn't have good hands. It's just it's a big question mark for me. And he's looked a little bit less natural there, in my opinion, than Melvin Gordon. And the other issue is that he didn't really get the run there in college because Michael Carter was a really good plus player out of the backfield as a pass catcher. So Javonte can get there. And the other part is I think Javonte Williams is a really good pass protector back there. That's one of the big reasons that he was one of my favorite backs in the draft 2 years ago. He just kind of sat back there, really smart, good processor. There's a few good highlight blocks of him where he was a shotgun on like the right side and would pick up a free rusher on the left. So good awareness. He's not Ezekiel Elliott level pass protection back there, who's still the best in the league at that. But he's up there, and I think he's going to get better in that regard. But I'll disagree slightly, Joel. If you have other thoughts on that, hit me up on Twitter. We can go back and forth a bit, and I don't think you're wrong. I just have a slightly different take on what I've seen.
See Patrick Abner coming with some stars. Thank you, sir. And Shane Daniels coming in green. Says, morning, Nick and Scott. Feels good to have football back. We're glad you're back too, Shane. Welcome back to football with quality content to talk about. Hopefully the content's been okay, even though the quality of what we're talking about has been, kind of iffy. But no, I'm excited. Everybody's excited in Broncos country right now. How long will that last? Could last all the way through February.
Here's to hoping, man. It's kumbaya right now. Although I still see some Drew Lock, Teddy Bridgewater discourse on Twitter, which is a little bit tiring. But I mean,
it happens in here. Again, Teddy Bridgewater was brought in for a 6th-round pick and $4 million. That makes him like 30th in the league in pay. And you went from not good to you're still not real good. Who cares after that? Eric, I care about Eric Weber coming in with some stars. He says, morning, Nick and Scott in Broncos country. Running game and pass protection will be great. Worried more about right tackle at this point. Hoping Peyton can work some magic. And I'm wondering if he means, Eric, if you mean the running game and pass protection from the running backs, because if I'm worried about right tackle, I'm worried about the running game and pass protection.
Yep. Yeah. It's a big question mark, and we haven't even talked about it that much, but because the right tackle is such a massive question mark. But this is impacting the interior offensive line too. These Tom Compton, Billy Turner questions, because Tom Compton sounded like they were having real expectations where he was going to compete, maybe even have a chance to win one of these guard spots. Billy Turner, too, was a really good guard for the Broncos when he played for them back in 2017, 2018. Now you're at two of those guys. You already have questions about Dalton Reisner. Lloyd Cushenberry has been doing all the right things this offseason, but he's coming off of a season, last 2 seasons being a bottom 10 center both years. And according to Luke yesterday, Quinn Miners was getting whipped by Draymond Jones. It's one of those things where is it because, Quinn's struggling in pass protection, or is Draymond Jones just an ascending demigod? We'll figure that out here soon. But it's not just right tackle too. I know we like to harp on right tackle because it's a more glamorous position as any offensive line position can be, I guess, compared to the interior. But questions abound.
Until they put pads on, the pass rush should whip the offensive line.
Yeah,
they should. When you're watching the one-on-ones, when you go to all these type of things, the drills are skewed extremely heavily towards the defense in pass rush, because it's a pass rush. It's always 3rd and 18 and there's no help and an immobile quarterback. And on the flip side, it's skewed towards the receivers and the quarterback in the passing game because there's no safety help, there's no pass rush, there's none of that. So if you can get an offensive lineman who can even get in the way of somebody in these drills, you've got somebody. And if you've got a cornerback or a safety who can cover at all when they've got the whole field to cover and they're doing one-on-ones and that type of stuff with no pass rush and no help from safety and the entire field to cover, you're doing pretty good. So until they get out and start running live action and put the pads on and there's the threat of the running game, I'm not going to be too harsh on any of the guys who might be having trouble pass blocking right now.
Yeah. No, absolutely. We got some guys coming in here. Todd Smith. Hey, how you doing, Todd? Good to see you. Starry Night in the background. I bet you there's a Bronco version of Starry Night you can put up there if you're interested. Kayleon Green. Yo, good to see you, Kayleon. I hope you're doing pretty well. And we also got the likes of Eric saying right tackle protection is a concern. Yes, it is. But, it's going to be a concern. It was always likely the case, especially now with the injuries and whatnot. But that's going to be something we're going to harp on this season. You just hope it's not the straw that breaks the camel's back for the Broncos. And you hope that Russell Wilson and the other things around the offense make it that it is not completely detrimental. I mean, I'll argue that Calvin Anderson is not that far off from Isaiah Prince, who started the Super Bowl last year for the Bengals and was beat regularly. But hey, Bengals had a good enough quarterback and weaponry. Didn't really matter until the Super Bowl. And guess what? If the Broncos lose the Super Bowl because of the right tackle position, in the moment, it will suck. But you're talking about getting all the way to the bleeping Super Bowl after 6 years of horrific below mediocrity. So concern, no doubt, but I'm not thinking it's a level of concern that is going to make or break the season completely. I am.
Eric says, thanks, guys. Now you have more concern about the entire. Well, it should be a concern. Honestly, it should be. I think the offensive line was one of the weaker areas of this team last year, and there haven't been any personnel upgrades, so to speak. There's been some internal things that are going on, and as Albert comes in, he says the scheme from the last couple of years didn't fit some of our offensive line players. That should be better now, correct? Maybe. But what should be better is a more threat of the passing game. Mm-hmm. That should help. You just heard me talk about the pass rush with no pads and no threat of the running game, making it really easy to rush the passer. Well, that just kind of described the last couple of years of the Denver Broncos, right? Same thing when it's live. There wasn't a real threat of a passing game. So I could load up for the run. I could get to the quarterback with 4 guys and drop 7 into coverage. I could do all of those type of things. Now, with the threat of the passing game, it becomes easier to run the ball. It becomes easier to run the ball. You start bringing safeties in. You start bringing linebackers closer to the line of scrimmage. It becomes easier to pass the ball. So having a balanced offense will make the offensive line as a unit much, much more effective, regardless of scheme.
Yep, absolutely. We'll see how it plays out. But to your point, last year, I don't remember where it came from. They were talking about Javonte Williams hitting the rookie wall the last 3 or 4 games last season, and that coincided directly with the quarterback change there. And the Broncos went from the heaviest rate of stacked boxes last season to far and away the heaviest rate of stacked boxes over the last 3 seasons. Despite the uptick in arm talent, I think the ability to make pre-snap line checks and run calls went away. And that made a big difference on running into a stacked box or not.
And executing it.
Yeah, and
not just making the right call, but then being able to execute it. So they faced the hardest group to run against, the hardest defenses to run against, and then it got worse. So that's going to change. If you stack the line against Russell Wilson, you're going to pay for it. And to your point, it went Javonte Williams in week 12. I'm going to run down the last, looks like 6 games of the season, 7, 8 games of the season. He was 111 yards, 48, 54, 102, 73, 72. And then the last 3 games, it was 12, 30, 46 for rushing. So yeah, he fell off a little bit. It was fairly even, and finished with 903 yards. So he had more yards. Again, going back to the original question earlier, is it possible to get 1,000 yards each? Possible. I just think Javonte Williams is going to get a heavier split this year. And I think 2,000 yards combined rushing is possible, but I would think it's going to be more in the neighborhood of 1,250, 750 to get that 2,000 yards.
Yeah, 100%. That makes all the sense in the world. And guys, we're going to have to start getting out of here. We appreciate it. Boss Man said, 50-ish minutes is pretty good. So we'll start wrapping up here. If you have any questions, make sure you get them in. As long as the super chats and stars are coming in, we'll keep going. But starting to make it a little bit shorter. But hey, you know what that means? Monday shows are coming back here real soon. So you're still going to get as much content. Just maybe a little shorter on this end. Unless again, the clapping, the applause, the encores keep coming on. So Scott, before we get on out of here, I know that you don't want to take too much away, but any last thoughts on anything you picked up from training camp yesterday? Concerns, storylines you're looking forward to based on what we heard from yesterday?
No, it's all love right now. That might go all the way through camp. That might go through the first loss of the season. Which will happen eventually. I don't think we're expecting a 17-0 season, except maybe Broncos Sunrise. He might be expecting a 17-0. But right now, it's all love, and that's great. The players, I think they appreciate the tempo, the energy, the newness, and the hope of the season, which is going to make them better. They will train harder. They will practice harder. They will get better. So I don't expect to hear anything, too outlandish as far as this guy's doing this guy's doing that. And frankly, like we've talked about this whole time, I don't put a whole lot of stock in it anyway. Good gracious, Ethan, coming in red. Keeping the lights on, upgrading the lights. I think it's time to get another set of lights here, Ethan. Coming in super red. Says he's keeping the lights on. Great show, gents. Take care, everyone. BFB, the closer. I guess it's time to book my flight to London for the Halloween game now. But I enjoy listening to everybody. My thoughts on this is the energy level and the culture change is palpable. You'd have to be a moron to think differently right now, just to say anything, to come up with anything negative about how the Broncos are practicing or feeling right now. You would just be being a contrarian for the sake of being a contrarian.
Yeah. I mean, God, it's really exciting times in Broncos country. And that is just an incredible super chat there, Ethan. We really appreciate it. Keeping us going here. Man, yeah, there goes Ethan's 4.0 razor. Yeah, we appreciate you guys. Man, Chris saying, I want to talk to your manager. Well, Chad, that's whatever. But we appreciate you guys. We're going to get on out of here.
We'll be on tonight at 6:00 Central.
Yeah, absolutely. The Huddle Up guys are back. Chad and Zach, the flagship program. The guys who have their picture on their caricature on the Facebook logo there. So we appreciate that, you guys. Make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter. Scott is at Scout Kennedy. I am at Nick Kendell, MHH. Also, make sure you're following us at BFB_pod, as well as at Mile High Huddle over on Twitter. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you're joining our Facebook community at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. I've really appreciated the recent uptick of Apple Podcast reviews. If you haven't done so yet, find us on there, Apple iTunes, search Mile High Huddle or Huddle Up, scroll down and leave us a 5-star rating and review and say, hey, the Breakfast Crew, my favorite. We love them. Everyone else, they're fine, but love Scott and Nick, even though they talk a lot and talk fast sometimes as well. It's the coffee kicking, and we just progressively get faster and faster. And also, guys, if you haven't done so yet on YouTube, please, please, please subscribe, like, and share. It's the number one thing that helps us get to more viewers out there. And if you like the show, make sure you spread it amongst Broncos country. Scott, what's the rest of your day looking like?
Got to take the boy to some strength and conditioning. He's got a day off from practice. We are now in soccer season, so he had like 3 or 4 days off between baseball and soccer. So it's now soccer camp season. And then just got some work to do. Got to cut up some videos for the channel. Go through some of the press conference highlights. So again, there's content coming all day on MHH YouTube. So make sure you've got that bell. For your notifications, because we're posting content all day, even if it's not just the live shows. There's clips coming up that we think you would enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, we appreciate you. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you again tonight, and Scott and I'll see you again Tuesday morning. But until then, choose kindness and choose compassion, and go Broncos.